I'm Becky Allen and I'm from the University of Sunderland, and I'm going to talk to you about my proposed work, which is a human-centred AI approach to adaptable digital musical instrument development. So just to give you some context to the proposed work, so my background originally was in music technology, so I did an undergraduate in music technology. This was kind of my main love, this is my passion, this is what I'm really interested in. I then moved on to do an MSc in computer science, where I worked on a sensor-based music therapy application. So working with an NHS music therapist, I created a music-based app using leap motion sensor alongside an iPad. So then I completed this, and then I ended up doing a PhD in something a little bit different, a little bit left field from my background. So I did a PhD in artificial intelligence education, and I created kind of an educational tool to assist people in learning machine learning with a key focus on inclusive education. So after kind of completing this educational journey, I wanted to kind of bring together all of my interests, all of my kind of background into kind of a cohesive new kind of research theme for me. So this is where I come to the proposed work, which, like I said, is human-centred AI approach to adaptable, accessible digital musical instruments. And kind of the human-centred AI approach kind of stems from the variety of concerns pertaining to artificial intelligence and its impact, whether this is the impact on creative practitioners, as the point was greatly made in kind of the earlier presentation about kind of the impact on musicians and the concerns around that, to the wider impact on artificial intelligence within society, such as bias, discrimination, and the overarching concerns around artificial general intelligence as well. So the aim of the human-centred approach is to really put artificial intelligence in context and put it back into the control of the users and the people who are going to be using these systems. So thinking about the concerns around artificial intelligence, there's also massive potential within ADMIs for AI to enrich the current provision. So whether this is through adaptability, customization, and the use of artificial intelligence for musical depth. So there's lots of potential uses for AI within ADMIs. And so my idea is to take this human-centred AI methodology alongside the users and musicians as co-creators to hopefully embed a more ethically focused approach to the development of this technology. So just to give some context to the human-centred AI approach, there's currently a disparity between the individuals who develop AI and those who use AI, and that very much centres around the idea of users as co-creators, so getting the people who are actually going to be using these systems involved from the beginning, kind of improving their AI literacy and ensuring that they have that knowledge of what artificial intelligence is. And the overarching kind of goal of human-centred AI is that it's intelligent systems that are designed with social responsibility in mind, and there are two critical approaches, so understanding humans and being able to help humans understand the AI systems. So the kind of the overarching aim of human-centred AI is to kind of develop awareness of the complex nature of the interaction between society, technology, and human-generated data. And that's kind of the main aim, the main thing that I'm thinking about in terms of the development of this system. So in terms of this research project as a whole, I've kind of developed this diagram mapping out all of the different elements. And the way I see it is there's the overarching goal of AI as a collaborative tool within the ADMI. And the main question around that is how to design non-human collaborators. What might that look like? What might that look like depending on the specific users as well? And kind of looking at the interaction capabilities with the AI and the human user, And then we've also got the more technical side of things. So in terms of artificial intelligence, I'm going to be looking at generative AI, so looking at models such as GANs and VAEs, and also looking at tiny ML. So if I'm going to be embedding the AI within kind of a digital musical instrument, there's lots of different latency requirements around that, so a tiny ML approach may also be needed. And then if we shift back over to the other side, this is where the HCI, the design principles, come into place. And the main idea around that is participatory practice. So users as co-creators and nothing about us without us. So I'm now going to go into each of the three sections into a little bit more detail. So in terms of the HCI design principles, the main approach to this part of the research is participatory practice. And the aim of this is to create systems in which all needs are met for the many and not for the few. And this is all about kind of the transfer of power, enabling participants to also take control of the process. And I've been looking at the unity of praxis, so looking at kind of getting participants to reflect, getting them to act, getting them to co-create new knowledge. And also the importance of kind of lived experience and expert knowledge. So in terms of the AI approaches, I know I've kind of touched upon this a little bit earlier, but looking at generative AI, looking at VEs and exploring the latent space in terms of greater control of different musical attributes. It's very important in terms of the controllability of the GenAI models and how that relates back to human-centered AI and making kind of the user have control over that. Then we come to the ultimate aim, so the AI as a collaborative tool. And the overarching kind of idea is to empower individuals to be in charge of their music-making opportunities, embedding that equivalence between automation and human control, and for the user to be able to iteratively refine and shape the algorithmic output. And kind of with the human-centered approach, it's all about leveraging the artificial intelligence to enrich rather than to replace human creativity. And I think that's really important in terms of the human-centered AI approach, in that it is a tool for the user to use and the user is in control of that. So yeah, this is kind of the ultimate aim, is to create the AI as a collaborative tool. So next steps is to identify the co-creators. In terms of Sunderland University, we're kind of a civic-based university, so we're very keen on exploring what's happening in the northeast of England. Health and well-being is a big issue within the northeast of England at the minute, so I've been looking at this research as a application for social prescribing. I've also been speaking to various youth groups, and we also have a big issue with digital exclusion within the northeast of England as well. So I've been looking at this research as a potential way to get people more involved in terms of computer science and building those digital skills. Thank you. That was a bit of a ramble. I panicked when I saw the 3 minutes come up. But yeah, I'm happy to take questions or have a discussion around the proposed research.
So after Sam's talk, somebody said, had you experimented with using AI to generate Sonic Pi code? And I guess the future of programming education will be about using AI to help generate code.
Yeah.
HCAI people say that code is good because it's explainable and controllable. Do you think there would be any future in connecting AI to a tool like Sonic Pi to be the way that you do human-centered AI?
Yeah, definitely. So I've used Sonic Pi before, teaching there were 12 to 13-year-old students how to code, but also to get kind of use music as a motivational tool to get them into it. So yeah, I can definitely see AI being a part of that and being a really useful tool, because the difficulty is in terms of the users as co-creators. At the moment, there are two kind of disparate groups that I'm looking at. So the one is older generation, older people who potentially have dementia. And the other focus group that I'm looking at is younger people who kind of maybe are not interested in computer science to really build those skills. And Sonic Pi is definitely, I can see that working for both sets of users as well. And incorporating AI within that is, yeah.
Are you going to create one tool for both those populations?
That is the aim, but obviously with users as co-creators, that's a very, it's very much dependent on what they want to develop.
Have you held any workshops with the kids and the demented people in the same room together?
No, and we won't be doing it at the same time either.
That seems like a way forward.
Hello, how are you doing?
Hi.
Thanks very much for the talk, it's really interesting. So my background is quite similar to yours in that it's music technology and sort of accessible musical instruments, usually using sort of hardware. Mm-hmm. So I was just wondering if you've had any thoughts on, particularly with people who might not interact with traditional things like a keyboard and a mouse to interact with the computer, if you've had any thoughts around that, tangible user interfaces or anything of that ilk?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So I've been exploring the current provision of accessible digital musical instruments and kind of having discussions with different people around the limitations of them currently. And I do have some experience with sensor-based technologies as well. So even though this is very much at the proposed stage, potentially some of them workshops might be exploring some of the existing hardware and looking and seeing what the current difficulties are with that, or how we could improve current provision.
Hello. So on this participatory design slide, you talked about, was it a praxis or something? Yeah. What is it? It sounds interesting. Could you explain more about it to me, please?
Yeah, of course. So it's kind of a methodology in terms of, because the importance is with the participatory practice is that the users feel in control and that they are a major part of the research. Thank you. And it's not, they're not kind of, I'm not just mining them for information, that they are very much involved with that. So there are a number of steps within that, and there are a number of tools that you can use within those steps. So the exploration of kind of the general idea of the research, getting the participants to reflect, and then it's all about kind of how you are going to create the environment that they feel comfortable to co-create that knowledge. So there's often not a set of concrete methodologies, it's kind of like a general overarching method to help the participants to feel involved in the project and to help them to create something together. So there's lots of different exercises. So there's we can do some participatory stuff. So we can have a go kind of making some music, for example, and then ask specific questions or have discussion groups. There's lots of different ways, but reflection is quite a difficult thing, and it's very difficult to facilitate. So it very much depends on the group that we're working with.
Thank you, Becky.